Last week at Watches and Wonders, Tudor released a hot new GMT that everyone's talking about. They also released this. Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Yes indeed, the pesky Black Bay Pro as they are calling it, Black Bay 58 GMT as I'm sure most of us understand it, may have taken most of the attention and most of the plaudits from Tudor's selection from Watches and Wonders last week. But I am yet to be convinced by this one. I will need to see it in the flesh to see if the colour tones on the dial stack up and to see if a 39mm case can cope with 14.6mm thickness. That is going to be one girthy little unit. Perhaps somebody I know might be buying one of those sometime soon. Perhaps that's the same person that bought this. The Tudor Black Bay GMT S&G. That's what they call it. Most of us, I'm sure, will refer to it as the Tudor Root Beer GMT. Of course, I didn't buy this for myself. Of course, the person I'm referring to is the mysterious Mr. X. If you're not already following him on Instagram, I'll leave a link in the description of this video. You can admire his ridiculous watch collection from afar. He really is a ridiculous man. Surely the only man on earth that wears a Langer while driving a forklift. He's been on a bit of a Tudor spending spree so far this year that shows no sign of ending anytime soon. He picked up the new Pelagos, the FXD, towards the beginning of the year, followed that up with an 18 karat gold Black Bay 58. Now this Root Beer GMT. Essentially the Root Beer is a reworked version of the Pepsi GMT that they launched in 2018, but with a precious metal bezel and crown and a very funky 70s colour scheme. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. Right, before I get into the box, let's start by talking price because price, as always, helps to add context. And let's talk today in Aussie pesos. On the two-tone capped bracelet, these are $7,560, a nice round sum there. On the fabric, 5,850 Aussie. And on the leather strap, which is what Mr. X went for, he had the choice of all three, 5,850. And I reckon leather could be the way to go here. This is a big and chunky watch, and having owned a two-tone S&G Black Bay before on the bracelet, Mr. X knew that. Well over 200 grams on a bracelet, 120 even on this leather strap. Now, if nearly $6,000 sounds like a lot of money, it is a lot of money, but do bear in mind that is just over a quarter of the price of a Rolex GMT Master 2 Root Beer, if you can buy one, which you can't. Model number M79833MN-0003, 003 meaning that it is the leather strap variant. Root Beer, Pepsi, two-tone bronze, whatever. It's a good looking big watch, the Tudor Black Bay, it really is. Plenty of space on that dial for the indices and the hands to breathe. Nice sized bezel and a big chunky unguarded crown, but it is a big chunky watch overall, 41mm in diameter, 14.6mm thick, there's that measurement again, 49.7 lug to lug, 22mm lug width, and as discussed on the leather strap with stainless deployment, it still weighs in at 121 grams. So it's a stainless steel case and sterile case back. I'll show you that in a minute or two. We have a precious metal, it's an 18 karat gold capped crown and an 18 karat gold bezel on this one. If you do opt for the bracelet, it is $1,700 more, but some of that money does go on capped gold mid links. Let's have a look at the standard of finish on this notoriously slab-sided big chunky case on the Black Bay 41. Beautiful high polish to the sides of the case though. Circular brush to the upper surface, satinized brush, and a lovely chamfered edge running all the way along to that unguarded crown. Talking of crowns, that is one of the nicest crowns in the business. It may only be capped, but I don't care. Tudor Rose emblem on there as well. And it is super easy to grip because it is a good size and it is unguarded. Also easy to grip is the bezel. 48 click bi-directional GMT bezels, so those are living in Adelaide and all of the other slightly awkward half-hour time gap countries will be satisfied with their Tudors. Lovely action, everything lines up perfectly. Now, aluminium bezel insert, we're going for a retro theme here today, particularly with that kind of brown and black, pure 1970s. It will scuff and scratch if you abuse it, so don't abuse it. And as discussed, I think the leather strap is a good choice because the leather strap is a very good one. It's got that lovely kind of almost cracked upper surface. It is going to patina beautifully. Off-white stitching here, kind of cream stitching, and a deployment class that is a thing of beauty, so much so that I've got some macro just of the clasp. I mean, look at that thing. I love the mixture of finishes here, the fact that the fold over is high polish, the rest of the clasp is brushed, and it has that Tudor shield profile to it as well. Check the etching, so nice. So nice that I zoomed in even more on it. Absolutely gorgeous, one of the nicest deployments that I've seen on anything, but it doesn't have any built-in adjustment. That's definitely, I think, something Tudor could work on, or provide more holes in this strap just to ensure a great fit. Pops that way, and look, some lovely little horizontal lines there to make that nice and grippy for you. Branded stainless deployment underneath. It is just a thing of beauty overall. Which is more than you can say about the case back. Tudor, like Rolex, have always gone for these just about sterile case backs. No sapphire display backs, no endless spec lists in the etching around the outer edges. It is nicely done, it is classy, it is probably just what you want on a watch like this. And behind that slightly plain case back is Tudor's in-house caliber MT5652 Kosk rated GMT. I'll get it on the Timegrapher in just a second. Let's have a look and see what it does. Fabulously grippy crown, really is very nice. Pops to a hand wind, it's a nice smooth hand wind as well. Second pop, you notice, doesn't hack the movement. It will, however, adjust the GMT hand backwards and forwards, so if you are an international jet setter and crossing time zones, you can adjust the home time, three-hand time there without hacking the watch. It doesn't have a quick set date as such. You can, however, set the date relatively easily by adjusting the hour hand. If you pull the crown out one more time, it will hack the movement and you adjust all three of the hands. So it's one of these GMTs, you set the GMT first and then you set the home time zone second. Pop it back in, very nice screw of the crown, all good. Let's see how it is on the Timegrapher. Running very well indeed on the Weishi. It is Kosk certified, so you'd be expecting it to run somewhere between -4 and +6. Yeah, that one running pretty much spot on. Nice and healthy, 0 beat error. 26 dual 70-hour power reserve on one of these. And it's a good looking movement as well. Almost a shame that they haven't provided a display case back. I believe the first and the only Tudor to have a display case back is the Black Bay Gold that I reviewed earlier on this year. But it's thick. Really thick. The MT5652 is 7.52 millimeters thick to be precise, leading to that 14.6 millimeter overall thickness. Now, to give you some context, a Miyota 9015, one of the slimmest high beat movements on the market, 3.9 millimeters thick. The cheapest ETA automatic GMT, the 2893-2, is 4.1 millimeters thick. So this Tudor is 3.5 mil thicker almost than even the ETA. It may be a little bit on the beefy side, but I think the Tudor Black Bay is a very, very good looking watch. It's been around for nearly 10 years now in various guises, and I have not changed my opinion on this one at all. That means it's obviously more common than it used to be, but I don't think it is nearly as overplayed and ubiquitous as the Rolex Submariner dial layout, for example. Plus, I think it looks particularly good in this one. I'm a big sucker for black and gilt. So printed dial, gold on black, the Tudor shield, Tudor name and Genève printed above the pinion, and GMT chronometer officially certified printed beneath, Swiss made obviously beneath the minute track around the outer edges. Applied indices, slightly 14er look to these ones with gold surrounds. Now I don't think it is 18 karat gold, they don't do a Rolex and use gold on the indices, but I don't think that particularly matters. It's a lovely piece of boxed domed sapphire crystal on this one covering the dial. Not sure how much anti-reflective is underneath that, but you do get nice little bits of vintage style flecto on occasions, and that is a great bezel insert. Gold Arabics on the evens, circular gold dots on the odds, and a great pair of colours they've chosen. A nice black to match the dial on top, and a warm retro brown underneath. Date complication at the 3 o'clock is nicely integrated with beveling. Now they haven't colour matched the date wheel here, which I think is fine because it offsets that rectangular baton at the 9 o'clock. And for once, I think they've got the dial text just about right. 3 lines above, 3 lines below, all nicely spaced. It doesn't look as crushed as some of their other models undoubtedly do. Now I did mention Fotina on those hands and indices. That is evident from the lume. It's got that darker green C3 old radium style here. Normally there's a price to be paid for that, but hey, it's not bad considering. If I crank the speed up, by the time we get to the end of the 20 minutes, all 4 hands are still legible, as are all of the indices. No loom on the bezel though, so the fact that the GMT hand is loomed is nice, but not all that useful because the bezel isn't. So I've been going on and on throughout this review about how thick and chunky the watch is. How does it wear then on my average size 7-inch wrist? Well, it wears okay. It wears quite pleasantly, 120 grams, you certainly notice it, but there is no getting away from that 14.6mm thickness. You see also they've done the Seiko here. They have tucked the tail end of the watch strap at the 6 rather than at the 12, something you're going to have to get used to. A little visually unusual to begin with, but I'm sure with wear it is something that one would get accustomed to. Overhead, another perspective on how big it does or does not look on my wrist. 41 isn't the problem. The thickness is a bit of an issue though. Legibility is not an issue though. Like I said, big dial, decent size handset, slightly small indexes, but no problems at all. Even from the angles, you can read this one fine. Outside natural light, you can see that the two-tone bezel insert and the 18 karat gold bezel and crown take on slightly warmer hues. Very, very nice colours, rather autumnal colours if I may say so. It is autumn here in Sydney after all at the moment. Also a bit of warmth from that sapphire crystal. Like I said, not an awful lot of AR, so you do get flecto, but it's a vintage style watch. I think that's okay. There we are, yet another different perspective of the watch on wrist and on that lovely leather strap and fantastic deployment. Definitely both highlights of this overall package for me. Looking down the wrist, under 50 lug to lug isn't a big issue. It all comes down to that thickness and whether you're okay with trying to slip this one under a cuff in inverted commas. And the pocket shot to finish for our fourth and final different perspective of this one on my wrist. I feel a little bit underdressed today, to be honest. Cheap drawstring shots and an old tee. I should really have put on something a little more becoming of the watch. Moans and niggles. Well, there is nothing new here from Tudor, no innovation. It is a bit of a rehashing, a conflation of a couple of older models, that being the Pepsi GMT and the two-tone S&G Black Bay. But I'm alright with that because I think the overall look of this one is really very nice indeed. 5,850 for the fabric strap. Ooh, I would have loved to have seen them knock 100 or 150 off of that to reflect the fact that it's just a NATO basically. And yeah, gorgeous as that deployment is, I would love to see some on-the-fly adjustment. If Formex can do it for a lot cheaper than that, I don't see why Tudor can. Or possibly introducing slightly more closely spaced holes in this just to ensure a better fit, because fit is important when you've got 121 grams of watch on your wrist. And for some people, of course, a Tudor will always be a poor man's Rolex because that's kind of where the brand started. They were a more affordable alternative from the same umbrella company and still are a more affordable alternative from the same umbrella company and a more attainable alternative. I think Tudor have made big strides over the last 10 years to be thought of as something different, to be thought of as desirable watches in their own right. And their move to in-house movements such as this MT5652, as thick as it is, are a fundamental part of that shift. I would love to see this watch coming in just under 13mm, but overall, because it's that bigger, chunkier 41mm case, I think the Black Bay just about gets away with the thickness. Not sure how it'll go in a 39mm case. Stay tuned for a review of that one in due course. So there you have it, the Tudor GMT Root Beer. If you are sick to death of not being able to buy a Rolex but want a quality watch, seriously, have a look at Tudor. This thing is very, very nice indeed if you're okay with that chunky size. If you're keen on Tudors, why not check out a couple of previous reviews, the FXD that I referred to earlier on and the 18 karat gold Black Bay 58. Thanks for watching. See you soon.